years I've wondered.
Making enough clotting factor, they tend to bleed a little more readily. They tend to fall more easily when they're intoxicated. She's probably stumbling around when she's intoxicated, and certainly falling and hitting her head is another possibility. Oftentimes the alcoholics already have somewhat of a shrunken brain, and there's a little more room in there for the subdural to develop.
And possible cranial trauma points her in one direction.
I think we'll go to the head first. Alrighty, now.
Dr. G begins by palpating Cora's skull for any abnormalities.
I'll feel that head for evidence of a contusion before I open it, but I don't feel anything on her. But she has a nice head of hair, and I may be missing it. So I will go ahead and reflect the scalp off of the calvarium, off the bone, off the skull, and look for bruising. Good. I really don't see anything.
He had severe trauma to the head, and they thought perhaps that he was out of his mind, and that's why he was reacting and acting the way he did. I personally wasn't too concerned about that because I know Wayne's personality, and he can be that way.
Wayne Shoup suffered a collapsed lung, 3 broken ribs, a cracked sternum, dislocated shoulder, and a multiple fractured leg. 3 months later, he's still in physical therapy, but he refuses to let it stop him from doing what he loves to do.
When that horse was running down the road at about 30 miles an hour, and I was holding on to the shafts in the rain, and my legs were pinned under, and the other one was in the wheel, the only chance of survival that I felt was put him in the woods. Otherwise, I'm going to die.
Spider is still his favorite horse.
The happiest moment was when Wayne got out of his truck after he was out of the hospital and went back to the barn.
I'm William Shatner. Join us again next week for more true stories on Rescue 911.
How do you stop the world's greatest jewel thief? Hire him. Keep your eyes on The Palace Guard, premiering Friday on CBS. Now there's still a baseball game to be played, and they're ordered to lose. Tom Berenger, Charlie Sheen, and Corbin Burnson for television premiere of Major League next.
Hello, Acadiana. This is Carl Darwin reminding you can hear Channel 10 Eyewitness News weeknights at 6 on KEUN Eunice, Louisiana's small market radio station of the year.
To purchase a video cassette of this program, call 1-800-848-3256.
By something else. Okay? That is what we get from our DSM. We're going to put her away for now. She's a great place to start. She's not the end all be all. I want to dig into what I believe is the most misunderstood piece of self-harm, and that is why people do it. For anyone who hasn't engaged in that behavior or been around or known someone closely who has, we can think, why would you hurt yourself, right? Like if I slam my finger in a door, I'm like, ow, that hurts. Why would I want to do that on purpose? There are a ton of reasons, because the key thing I want you to hear today is that self-harm is not really about the harm itself, like the damage that is done to our bodies. It's about what it gives us, because self-harm is a way of coping with something else going on. As you kind of saw in that diagnostic criteria, we're utilizing self-harm as a way to deal with emotional upset, interpersonal issues, things that are going on that we don't know how to cope with. We're using self-harm to do so. And the reason that people do it is when our world feels crazy and everything around us feels really out of control.
I knew then that we could be possibly looking at a homicide.
She had the right to remain silent.
I think it was.
The confession's on this video, and we can't hear it.
There's no sound there.
There's sound, but it's just a noise, constant noise all the way through it.
Ladies and gentlemen, please rise.
This is malice murder. This is felony murder.
This gun did not discharge on its own. And Mary Catherine Higdon was angry. She lost control, and she pulled the trigger.
I didn't even know it was chambered. I never wanted to hurt him. I never wanted anything like that.
There may be people watching this who find it hard to believe what you're saying right now.
Mm-hmm.
What would you say to them?
All I know is what's in my heart, and I know what happened that night. I loved Stephen. I would never, ever do anything to hurt him.
Okay, and we're in trouble.
What do you mean in trouble?
All right.
No.
I have that towel rack. Then there are other key pieces like planning the like figuring out the sequence of events or what your time management, time awareness, that time, it's almost like even as I'm putting this video together, I knew, like sometimes you get kind of overwhelmed. I'm like, oh, I've read like 4 articles, my brain's kind of like fine, and I'm like, okay, I'm going to take like a 2-minute break, I'm just going to space out. That's what I do, just kind of space out. I'm like, okay, I'm going to come back in. That's me suspending my attention. I'm like, you know, I did this for this long, like 30 minutes. I'm going to space out, take a beat. I'm going to come back. I'm going to come back to it. And the final is monitoring, which is noticing whether or not what you're doing is working, or autism, or depression, which there's other things, anxiety disorders, a ton of different but that's because you can struggle with executive function when you're sleep deprived. You didn't sleep early, like yesterday, Sean had to get up early, we had to go to Dallas for this event, and he didn't sleep well, I didn't sleep well, we were both sleeping well. We're not about that. That's not a good day for me to try working towards the goal, right? If I have chronic stress, if I have depression, and I love that they mentioned depression in the research, because I can see how much that impairs my ability to first things that I also wasn't really flexible. Like I was really agitated and irritable. So if anybody wanted me to do something else, I'm like, it's so difficult, right? And it also means I'm not sleeping well because depression's the worst. You're tired all day, you can't sleep at night, right? That can impair our ability to function, to be able to do the things that we need to do. Anxiety, trauma, fairness, overwhelming the most. What's the one step? You're like, oh, but I want you to notice that first one. Okay, where do we kind of get tripped up first? Pay attention, okay? Because this can help us better fight against it. Can help us know where not ideas here in the end that like this is initiating. Maybe we need like with us like a buddy to get us. If it's that we have trouble finishing, maybe that means when it's big projects, it is a finisher. A lot of people do that. We find great success in partnerships when it comes to executive dysfunction. So just starting to break it down into, you know, different steps so that you can identify what that conflict is, that first piece. Let's not just put the task on Now the next piece that I want us to consider, or I guess my next tool, is I want to keep that up, you're gonna die young.
time. It took way more than 15 minutes. You have a car? How come you never drive? I'm still in the process of the oil change.
A fast, easy oil change with your best car bud? Jiffy does it. Jiffy.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Dash Reacts. Let's check out the South Park episode, The Snook. Let's do this.
Students, let's take our seats here. We have a new student joining us today. Say hello to Bahir Hassan.
Whoever our terrorist is has a detonator with him. If we don't find that detonator, we're on the town of Main Street, right by an ice cream shop. Oh, okay.
In reality, Philip and Nancy had spent years building a system in which JC's survival, identity, and children were all tied to the people who had taken her. The next part of the story is not simply about why she did not run. It is about how two adults took an 11-year-old child, isolated her from everything she knew, and then constructed a life in which escape no longer meant walking through an unlocked door. The question most often asked about JC's captivity is also one of the least useful. Why didn't she escape? It assumes that she continued to understand the outside world as she had before the kidnapping. It also treats the later years, when she was sometimes allowed beyond the concealed backyard, as if they were separate from the isolation and abuse that came first. JC was 11 when Philip and Nancy Garrido took her. During the first months, Philip controlled her food, movement, and contact with other people. She had no telephone, no money, and no way to determine where she was. She had been driven for hours while covered and disoriented, then placed behind fences in a neighborhood she had never seen. Philip also convinced her that leaving the structure would expose her to trained dogs. Whether those dogs were actually capable of attacking her was irrelevant. Her daughters were 15 and 11. Philip Garrido had become increasingly preoccupied with religion, mental control, and what he claimed were solutions to sexual and psychological problems. He office describing his ideas and created a group of years of unsuccessful supervision had also made him confident. He had brought JC and the girls into limited contact with customers and neighbors without being exposed. Police had come to his front door and left. Parole agents had visited repeatedly without finding a Garrido took the two girls to the University of California, Berkeley. He wanted permission to hold a public event connected with the distribute his religious material. The University Police Department's Special Events Office met Lisa Campbell immediately noticed that something about the situation was wrong. Garrido had the proposed event suggested that the government was involved. The two girls beside him appeared unusually quiet and submissive. Campbell did not confront Garrido or tell him he was suspicious.
Second daughter under the same conditions. Both children were fathered by her captor. Neither one had a birth certificate or a medical record. As far as any system in the state of California was concerned, they did not exist. The two girls grew up inside the compound. They never attended school. They never saw a doctor. They had never been inside a grocery store or ridden in a car on a public road the way other children had. Their mother was the only stable thing in their lives, and she had been a captive since before they were born. JC later described in her memoir what kept her from attempting to escape. It was not the fencing. It was not the physical threat. It was her children. Once her first daughter was born, every decision she made filtered through one calculation. What happens to them if this goes wrong? The man who held her understood that. He had built a system around her. Total dependence. Complete isolation. A closed world where he controlled the food, the space, the information, and the rules. He told JC and the girls that the outside world was dangerous. He framed himself as their protector. Over the years, he folded religion into the structure. Office the next morning and ordered him to bring everyone living in his household. On August 26, 2009, the man arrived with 4 people: his wife, the 2 teenage girls, and a young woman he introduced as Alyssa, telling investigators she was his niece. Santos separated each person for individual questioning. The man was placed in one room, his wife in another, the young woman in a third. The 2 girls were kept apart from all of them. Under questioning, the man's story began to come apart. The details did not hold. The explanations shifted. And then, in that room in the Concord parole office, he confessed. He told investigators he had kidnapped an 11-year-old girl in 1991. He told them he had sexually assaulted her. He told them she had been living in his backyard ever since. His name was Philip Craig Garrido. He was 58 years old. He had been a registered sex offender since 1977. His address had been on file with the state of California for over 2 decades. His ankle bracelet had been tracking his movements since it was fitted in 2008. 60 parole officers had stood at his front door. The system had his name, his record.
Jumping!
He helps with sales, but when he drinks, he gets violent.
Reverse. Blue. Yellow. Uno.
Splat.
Super duper. O65. I-27. V8. Bingo. Round over. Round over.
I mean, there's antipsychotic drugs like Seroquel, which can definitely make you, hallucinate for sure, if they're taken in too much quantity. And then also sleep medications, which are notorious for people, to have adverse reactions, especially when you're taking them for a long time. Ativan was the one I think that was mentioned. The big talk, obviously, this week is the combination of medications she was taking. She possibly have been over-prescribed things. She just wasn't being taken care of correctly. How much of this medication was responsible for her completely losing consciousness of what she was doing?
So that'll be for our panel here, Freud and Carl Jung. How much of the medication was responsible for completely disconnecting from her body? 100%.
Wow.
100%.
Okay.
It was a bad combo.
Okay. I believe outside of the court case, her husband is suing.
Prosecution has to believe that at some level they knew exactly everything that was going on, which they did not.
Right.
In order to prosecute them. So when they are charged, and they are going to be struck off, I tell you that right now, they're not going to be able to practice anymore. They are going to be suspended. But that is going to be very difficult to prove, and they will not be proven guilty on that one, just so you know. But it doesn't mean they'll be able to practice anymore. Wow. So that for all of our psychotherapists and our psychiatrists out here listening that do these, I have a friend who's a psychiatrist. She sees all her patients via Zoom, right? I mean, is that maybe what the problem is? Let's ask Jung and Freud. Is doing a mental health assessment via Zoom the problem? Now, they're of the understanding of, yes, it is, but that's a whole nother debate for a whole nother day. They don't believe that she was properly evaluating the issue, that she was always trying to be one. Far from it, she says.
So what is the disconnect then that doesn't allow her to, take in those compliments or see that she, was great and loved and adored? What is it? A psychological condition? Is it a, emotional condition because of how she was treated as a child?
It's very kind of transactional. The relationship that she had. This is really about her mother. I'm getting. It was always criticism, sit up straight, shoulders back, that kind of stuff. But I'm sure we've all had that in our lives, but not constant criticism.
So this whole contract. Go ahead.
For those parents to lose 2 children at such young ages, that is very different.
It's horrific. It's my heart breaks for both of them. They're separated now, but